Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the first episode. The very first episode, not counting the setup episode, obviously. The very first episode of our TNA 2014 reboot series. Well, I guess not really reboot, but our new attempt at the 2014 TNA series. I, of course, am CR Daredevil, for those who are unfamiliar. And we are going to be having one heck of a show tonight. So I got to go over a couple things before we start off the show. First off, I made a slight error. Well, I didn't make the slight error, but the game, the way the mod was set up was a slight error, and I kind of went along with it in the first episode when I shouldn't have. In real life, in April of 2014, lockdown had already happened. Lockdown happened in March. It featured the Lethal Lockdown match in which Team MVP defeated Team Dixie, granting MVP the authority. I don't remember what they called it exactly, but basically MVP's team won that match, and so MVP took over as the on-screen authority figure, basically. So I had to change that. I had to move Lockdown to March, like it was supposed to. And so, actually, the next pay-per-view coming up is Sacrifice. So it's going to be TNA Sacrifice coming up the end of April of 2014. So 3 weeks from this show. So there. So that's going to be a thing. So you're not going to see Lockdown. Unfortunately, you're going to have to wait a whole year until we get the pay-per-view full of cage matches. But Sacrifice is the upcoming pay-per-view. Secondly, I got to thinking about it, and so the thing about the WCW save that I started doing is that technically it was in a way it was a new era we were jumping into. I mean, yeah, I built up the story behind it, the changes that I made to the universe, but in a way it was kind of its own era too, because this was the first time that it was going to be on Nitro, so I was allowed to just kind of change things right off the bat. With this save, we're kind of jumping into just the middle of an era in TNA. Like I said, MVP just won authority or control over TNA. Dixie Carter obviously wants to get that authority back, all that kind of stuff. But so I was like, well, I could just go and just immediately change everything, and that would look weird and be kind of dumb and be kind of lame. Or what I could do is, for the first few weeks while I'm still getting used to things, I could mostly stick to what happened in real life and slowly start making changes as we go. So this episode of Impact, our first one in the series, is essentially that. It is, I'd say, 90 to 95% what happened on the real first Impact of April 2014, except for one pretty obvious change and then a few minor changes along the way. And then as the weeks come, you'll start to see that little bit of branching. You'll start to see it turn more into my stuff versus what happened in real life. But there's still going to be, for the first few weeks, probably even up through Sacrifice, you're going to see some stuff that happened in real life happening in there, in this as well, because I want to start slowly splintering things off, not just all of a sudden be like, all right, well, all the titles changing hands here tonight, and we're going to start all over and blah, blah, blah. I wanted to slowly do it. So that's the thing. So this show is mostly going to be what happened in real life, except for some changes here and there, which I'll go over. But enough rambling. Let's get on with the show. We open up with a pre-show match in which Brittany is taking on a debuting mysterious figure known as Rosemary. Of course, at this time, Rosemary had not made her TNA debut yet. She actually didn't come into the company until almost a year later. But she is here now, and she drops her debut match before Impact, so it wasn't even televised, to Brittany in 7:03 by pinfall with a handspring moonsault. 28 rating for the match, 28 from Rosemary, 20 from Brittany. Rosemary has debuted her mysterious gimmick, which got a very good rating, so that's pretty good. But yeah, so we'll have to see what is to come from this mysterious figure, who doesn't quite look like that yet, but that's the only picture they have of her. Well, they have the only two pictures they have of her in this mod is this picture, and then the picture of just her flat out as Courtney Rush. Essentially think that this version of Rosemary is just Courtney Rush with some minor face paint on. Nowhere near as much as this picture. Just kind of some generic face paint on, as she just shows up as this mysterious figure, but does end up taking the loss, but looks impressive in the match. So there's that. And then we move on to the actual opening of Impact. So we open things up with a match that was advertised last week to be happening on the show. It is a tag team tables matchup in which Bobby Roode and EC3 defeat Bully Ray and Will-O-The-Wisp in a tag tables matchup. The tag tables match apparently. In 9:07, when Bobby Roode puts Bully Ray through a table. During the match, Rockstar Spud ran in, and I put attacked Will-O-The-Wisp, but he essentially comes out, distracts Will-O-The-Wisp, and then Willow chases after him into the back, and so it becomes a 2-on-1 tables match, essentially, and Bully Ray gets put through a table. 72 rating for the match. Strong stuff right off the bat. EC3 with a 42 was the weak link of this match. Bobby Roode with a 64. Willow with a 78. Bully Ray with a 72. I know that I did in the last episode, I had introduced, or I'd said that we're going to have Jeff Hardy, we weren't going to have Willow. I changed my mind between that episode and this episode because I have a story I'm going to do first before you're going to see Jeff Hardy probably by the end of 2014. But I have a story I'm going to do first that's going to transition Willow back to Jeff Hardy. But for now, we're going to see Willow. Anyway, so Bully Ray and Will-O-The-Wisp show excellent chemistry teaming together. Wow, that's pretty good, knowing heading forward. But yeah, strong tag team matchup tag team tables match, that is, to start off Impact in front of 4,448 people in the Edwards Hall in Florida, because I was going to run the Universal Studios, and the Universal Studios, I didn't pay attention to the venues at the time, and Universal Studios was only set up to have 1,000 people in it, and I'm like, there's no way I'm cutting myself off that much with fans, so I may create a Universal Studios, like a second Universal Studios arena, and have it with like a max of like 5,000 or 6,000 people, just so I can officially run in Universal Studios, since they ran in that a lot during this time, but we'll see what happens, or the Impact Zone as they called it. But anyway, so there's that. Great match to start things off. Afterwards, Bobby Roode continues the attack after the match with EC3's help and puts Bully Ray through another table and stands tall. So pretty strong showing from Bobby Roode here over Bully Ray, who is of course a face right now, and he's got a little bit of a feud with Dixie Carter going on and all that. But right now he's got some issues with Bobby Roode, and Bobby Roode's coming out on top here tonight. After that, Kenny King arrives at the arena, and he finds out that he's not even booked on tonight's show. He was told to show up tonight last week by MVP, who said he'd have a match for him all set up and ready to go. And then he got here tonight ready for that match, and turns out he's not even booked. So I'll have to see what that means heading forward. Then we get Magnus with a backstage promo where he talks about how people are asking about if Abyss is on his side, and he says that of course Abyss is on his side. The Monster is clearly on his side and clearly on Team Dixie, and that here tonight, later on, he'll help everybody get confirmation of that out there in the ring when him and Abyss have a discussion out in front of the fans, essentially. Magnus, by the way, our TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Who, by the way, I probably should have mentioned that. Well, no, never mind. It comes up here a second. Literally, it comes up here in a second. As MVP then is seen backstage, and he hypes up tonight's show. Of course, the rest of the night We have a tag team matchup featuring the beautiful people, Angelina Love and Velvet Sky, teaming up against the person that Angelina Love turned her back on just recently and beat up Madison Rayne, the TNA Knockouts champion, and a mystery partner. Madison Rayne has to find a tag team partner, otherwise she's going to be going at it in a handicap match here tonight. So we'll have to see who the tag team partner ends up being. It's also announced that coming up here next will be Sam Shaw and Mr. Anderson in a straightjacket match, where the winner is the person who locks the other person into a straitjacket. And then the main event is the big four-way match for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, featuring Magnus defending against Abyss, Eric Young, and Samoa Joe. And then MVP goes to continue to hype up the show, and that's when Kenny King shows up and says, "Hey, you said you're going to have a match for me here tonight." And MVP says, "Listen, just sit tight, King. We'll talk about it here in a second. Let's get the show. Let's keep having the show go. Keep the show going on." I'm stumbling over my words right now. Not a surprise for me. After that, Samuel Shaw defeats Mr. Anderson in 9:51 in the straightjacket match, where Mr. Anderson was trapped, 49 rating. Match did not do so hot because I had to keep Mr. Anderson strong, I would imagine. Or he had declining physical ability. I guess I didn't get penalized for having to keep him strong, because he was not willing to put Samuel Shaw over unless I kept him strong. Whatever. But anyway, Shaw gets a victory in 9:51 when Anderson gets wrapped up inside of the straitjacket and taken off. Or he starts dragging him off, essentially. 49 rating for the match, 33 from Shaw, 57 from Anderson, and we kind of go from there. Then we go backstage to a Beautiful People promo, where they say that they don't care who Madison Rayne's tag team partner is tonight, because nobody likes Madison Rayne around here anyway. Everybody knows that because Madison Rayne spent so much time with the Beautiful People and was somebody that they created, that Madison Rayne literally has no friends in this company. So she will not be able to find anybody to help her out tonight, and the Knockouts Championship in due time will end up back with the Beautiful People. And tonight they're going to make sure that Madison Rayne realizes that the Beautiful People are the best here in TNA. Simple as that. Then we get Eric Young with a backstage promo where he kind of talks about how he deserves to be in the four-way match for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship here tonight. And that everybody who's out there doubting whether he deserves a shot or not, he'll prove them all wrong and prove it here tonight when he wins the title. After that, I put them on charisma, but I guess that technically counts as them talking. That shouldn't count as them talking, though. I'll keep that in mind for the future. Tigre Uno and Sonata are preparing to have a match here tonight. They're preparing to start a best-of-3 series. Sonata being the X Division champion. They're preparing to have a best-of-3 series. When Kenny King comes out, interrupting, he says that he is the X Division, and that there shouldn't be any X Division showcase best-of-3 series going on, because Kenny King should be the X Division champion, and he demands a match against Sonata. MVP comes out and says, "Listen, I don't know who the hell you think you are, but you need to calm it down, son. Like you are not the X Division. You are not as big of a star as you think you are, and you need to stop interrupting and let me decide when you're having a match here tonight." And Kenny's not too thrilled about that, and essentially says, "Fine, if you don't want to let me fight Sonata here tonight, then how about you let me fight you here tonight?" So they kind of go back and forth a little bit, and MVP doesn't seem like he wants a match, but then he's like, "You know what? Fine, I'll accept it." So it's going to be Kenny King and MVP here tonight after this matchup that's about to happen. It's going to be those two going at it here tonight. We'll have to see what happens with that. After that, we get a match that does not do so hot because the game does not like either one of them, essentially. Terrible matchup. Sonata defeats Tigre Uno in 6:30 by pinfall to German suplex. 24 rating for the match. Sonata with 32, Tigre Uno with 29. Sonata was really off his game. The crowd was turned off by having a match outside the pre-show that they have because both of them are unimportant wrestlers. I get that Sonata wasn't really super over in Impact, but I might make a slight adjustment to his popularity because I feel like he still had a little bit of popularity, especially as the X Division champion. He started, I'm not saying he was somebody you trusted to be to be in any sort of big important role in your show, but he at least had a little bit of popularity because he was putting on impressive matches and he was the X Division champion. So I think he deserves a little bit of popularity. Like, I'm probably going to adjust it enough to put him into at least recognizable status, especially because looking at my X Division, I basically have nobody in recognizable or higher status, so I'm not going to really have an X Division if I don't have him up there. But so I might adjust his popularity slightly, but for now, this is what happened. So 24 rating, and Sonata goes 1-up in the best of 3 series that these two have planned in the future here, as Tigre Uno is looking very stale apparently, so I might have to fix his gimmick stuff as well. We'll have to see. After that, in a very kind of underwhelming segment, but that's all right. Madison Rayne is still looking for a partner. Clearly, she hears a voice, and the camera pans over to show someone TNA is very familiar with standing there. None other than Winter, who is going by Katarina now. And Katarina says that if anybody knows the beautiful people, and especially Angelina Love, it's her. So she offers to team up with Madison Rayne here tonight to get back at the beautiful people. And Rayne's like, well, I don't think I could trust you at all. In fact, you were tag team partners. You were Knockouts tag team champions with Angelina Love. You kind of you mind controlled her for a while, but I can't really seem to find anybody else. And you are right. If anybody's going to know them pretty well, it's going to be you. So, all right, I'll team up. I'll have you as my partner tonight, but I will be keeping an eye on you. So she kind of puts that out there, but so that's what's going to be happening tonight. Is we're going to get the beautiful people against Madison Rayne and Katarina. In real life, this was actually Brittany who said that she looked up to Madison Rayne and ended up as Madison Rayne's tag team partner. But I brought in Katarina for kind of a one last run thing for TNA here in 2014, and so I have some plans for her, and I figured this was the best way to introduce her because the plans that I have in mind kind of coincide with the beautiful people and all that. So there's that. After that, we get Magnus coming out to the ring. He says that he asks for Abyss to come down to the ring, which Abyss does. Abyss comes out to the ring and whatever. Magnus says that he is so glad that Abyss is on his side, that Abyss is his personal bodyguard, his personal monster of destruction, that Abyss has a contract with Magnus and not with TNA or anything like that, and that he says that they should team up tonight in that 4-way match for the world title. He says that they should team up and they should be able to put down Eric Young and Samoa Joe with ease, and Magnus will still be the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. And Eric Young comes out, and Eric Young has no words. He just immediately starts going. He beelines it for Abyss and starts beating the heck out of him, trying to prove that he can stand up with the best of them, the biggest of them, really. And he gets beaten down by the heels. When Samoa Joe comes running out from the back, making the save, Joe chases off Magnus and Abyss. Eric Young looks kind of upset about that save because he wanted to prove that he could stand up to Abyss and Magnus, and he ended up needing somebody's help for it. But faces end up clearing the ring, but there's some uneasy tension between Young and Joe before the 4-way main event here tonight. And we get the Wolves backstage talking to MVP about their match coming up. They've got a match up against the Bromans, the tag team champions. tonight. And that's when Robbie E comes in. He has a note saying that Jesse, his tag team partner, is hurt. And MVP says, well, it looks pretty legitimate, so I'm going to go ahead and call off the match tonight, and next week we'll make this match happen. And so the Wolves get kind of disappointed that they don't get to wrestle tonight, but the match gets made for next week. So next week it's going to be the Wolves and the Bromans. After that, we get a 46 rated matchup in which Madison Rayne and Katarina defeat the Beautiful People in 841 when Rayne pinned Velvet Sky with a raindrop after Katarina kind of ended up being a bit of a distraction for Angelina Love towards the end of the match there. Rayne hit the raindrop, and Angelina Love was going to come in and break up the attempted pinfall, but Katarina kind of came in and kind of distracted Angelina a bit, and that's what caused Rayne to get the victory. So 46 rating for the match, 42 from Velvet, 31 from Love, 27 from Katarina, and 47 from Rayne. Pretty decent stuff there. Not too bad for a Knockouts division match. Could have been better, but it could have been worse. So, and as you can see, Katarina with a 27 in-ring performance, I think she's already going to be... No, she's not declining physically yet, but she is at that point where she's not going to be able to put on a lot of great in-ring performances. A lot of her stuff's going to be more outside of the ring, but I wanted to have her in here to, one, get an idea of what she was going to do match-wise, and two, because it made sense for her to be the partner there. A lot of her stuff's going to be outside of the ring, though, but we'll see what happens. After that, we get the Kenny King and MVP matchup, which goes to a double disqualification in 10-17 because both men just end up falling to the outside of the ring and fighting with each other and won't stop fighting with each other. 46 rating, not great, but it is what it is. MVP with a 59, Kenny King with a 37. They keep fighting with each other. Security has to come out to try to pull them apart, as King and MVP clearly have some issues with each other as we continue on. So we continue on after I hit the button. And yes, you did just see MVP being kept strong because he didn't want to put Ken King into a draw either. Magnus is backstage and runs into Ethan Carter III. He asks for his help in the main event, and Carter says that why should he bother helping him? He has Abyss, remember? And just kind of walks off there. So it looks like there's some issues between EC3 and Magnus because Magnus has Abyss and he doesn't seem to really need the rest of Team Dixie. So we'll have to see what that means heading forward because it seems like there's some tension there between those two. Then backstage, or then in a different part of backstage, we quickly see MVP attacking Kenny King, beating him down until the Wolves end up pulling him off for some reason. The Wolves tell him to not make any of these mistakes like this because any little mistake like this could end up leading to him losing control here in TNA, which would be a bad thing. And he's like, yeah, you're right. So security comes in, medics come in, check on Kenny King as MVP backs off and walks off there. And then in the main event, Magnus defeats Eric Young, Samoa Joe, and Abyss in 11:45 when Magnus pins Eric Young with a Tormentum to make defense number 1 of the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Eric Young was the weak link. 67 rating for the match itself, 64 from Abyss, 49 from Eric Young, 62 from Joe, 61 from Magnus. Lost heat for the storyline, but that's all right. Pretty strong main event. Not the best match on the card, but pretty strong otherwise. And the show ends with Magnus holding the championship up with his victory. Show gets a 62. All right. Lost popularity in 18 regions, gained popularity in 13 regions. Kenny King was used too much. I'll still take a 62 though, even if it did lose us some popularity. I'll still take 62. It was pretty good for what it was. So that's essentially outside of the Brittany being replaced by Katarina bit. That's essentially how that real life episode of Impact went. Even all the promos, all the matches, everything like that essentially went that way. Next week, as I said, you'll see kind of a slight change. You'll start to see a bit more of a change from what happened in real life compared to what happened in the game. You'll you'll see less of what happened in real life and more of what I'm going to be doing heading forward. As we start to go towards Sacrifice, we'll have to see what's going to continue to happen with Magnus still holding the world title. We'll have to see what happens with Kenny King and MVP. We'll have to see if the Bromans and the Wolves fight next week, as it's announced right now, but they were also supposed to fight this week, and that got delayed, so we'll have to see what happens there. We'll have to see how things can continue to play out with the Beautiful People. And there's not really anything else announced for next week. The only match that's really announced for next week is the Wolves and the Bromans. Otherwise, you just get, the only other things really kind of announced would be just potential fallout from the main event and potential fallout from all the other things going on. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But thank you for watching. Definitely appreciate it. As we will continue to make this thing our own work of art in the future as we continue on and go from there. So thank you. Appreciate all the support you have. Check out